Hello students, teachers, parents, history nerds. Hello everybody, and welcome to Nutshelled History, where we lay out the facts, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We continue with our Modern World History series by looking at nationalism in Eastern Europe and Russia. Don't forget that there's a link for a fill-in-the-blank worksheet in the description. Feel free to use it. I just ask that you like and subscribe. I apologize for any mispronunciations ahead of time. I do my best. Let's do this. In 1800, the Habsburgs of Austria, the oldest ruling house in Europe, presided over a multinational empire. The Emperor Francis I upheld conservative goals against growing liberal forces. He could not, however, hold back the changes that were happening throughout Europe. By the 1840s, Austria was facing the problems of industrial life, including growth of cities, worker discontent, and socialism. Nationalists were threatening the old order. The Habsburgs ignored these demands for change and crushed revolts. Amid the turmoil, 18-year-old Francis Joseph inherited the Habsburg throne. He granted some limited reforms, such as adopting a constitution that set up a legislature. However, these reforms only satisfied German-speaking Austrians. The reforms did not satisfy the other national groups within the empire. Austria's defeat in the 1866 war with Prussia brought even more pressure for change, especially from the Hungarians. Ferenc Deák helped work out a compromise known as the dual monarchy. Under this agreement, Austria and Hungary became separate states. Each had its own constitution, but Francis Joseph ruled both, as Emperor of Austria and King of Hungary. However, other groups within the empire resented this arrangement. Restlessness increased among various Slavic groups. Some nationalist leaders called on Slavs to unite in fraternal solidarity. By the early 1900s, nationalist unrest left the government paralyzed in the face of pressing political and social problems. Like the Habsburgs, the Ottomans ruled a multinational empire. It stretched from Eastern Europe and the Balkans to the Middle East and North Africa. As in Austria, nationalist demands tore at the fabric of the Ottoman Empire. During the 1800s, various peoples revolted, hoping to set up their own independent states. With the empire weakened, European powers scrambled to divide up Ottoman lands. A complex web of competing interests led to a series of crises and wars in the Balkans. Russia fought several wars against the Ottomans. France and Britain sometimes joined the Russians, and sometimes the Ottomans. By the early 1900s, observers were referring to the region as the Balkan powder keg. The explosion came in 1914 and helped set off World War I. By 1815, Russia was the largest, most populous nation in Europe. The Russian Colossus had immense natural resources. Reformers hoped to free Russia from autocratic rule, economic backwardness, and social injustice. One of the obstacles to progress was the rigid social structure. Another was that, for centuries, czars had ruled with absolute power, while the majority of Russians were poor serfs. Alexander II became Tsar in 1855 during the Crimean War. Events in his reign represent the pattern of reform and repression of previous czars. The war, which ended in a Russian defeat, revealed the country's backwardness and inefficient bureaucracy. People demanded changes, so Alexander II agreed to some reforms. He ordered the emancipation of the serfs. He also set up a system of local elected assemblies called zemstvos. Then he introduced legal reforms such as trial by jury. These reforms, however, failed to satisfy many Russians. Radicals pressed for even greater changes and more reforms. The Tsar then backed away from reform and moved toward repression. This sparked anger among radicals. In 1881, terrorists assassinated Alexander II. In response, Alexander III revived harsh repressive policies. He also suppressed the cultures of non-Russian peoples, which led to persecution. Official persecution encouraged pogroms or violent mob attacks on Jewish people. Many left Russia and became refugees. Russia began to industrialize under Alexander III and his son Nicholas II. However, this increased political and social problems. Industrialization led to poor working and living conditions. Nobles and peasants feared the changes industrialization brought. News of military losses to Japan added to the unrest. On Sunday, January 22, 1905, a peaceful protest calling for reforms turned deadly when the Tsar's troops killed and wounded hundreds of people. In the months that followed this bloody Sunday, discontent exploded across Russia. Nicholas was forced to make sweeping reforms. He agreed to summon a Duma. He then appointed a new prime minister, Peter Stolypin. Stolypin realized Russia needed reform, not repression. Unfortunately, the changes he introduced were too limited, and he was assassinated in 1911. By 1914, Russia was still an autocracy, but the nation was simmering with discontent. Yikes. Let's recap. The 19th century European political landscape was a paragon of smooth sailing. The Habsburgs, masters of change management, quashed revolts while young Francis Joseph's reforms pleased only the German-speaking Austrians, leaving everyone else thrilled with discontent. Austria's defeat by Prussia ingeniously led to the dual monarchy, naturally fostering further unity among disgruntled national groups. The Ottomans, too, reveled in their multinational chaos, with nationalist revolts and European powers eagerly dismembering their empire, culminating in the Balkan powder keg explosion that ignited World War I. Meanwhile, Russia, blessed with autocratic czars and an immovable social structure, dabbled in ineffective reforms and joyous repression. Alexander III's delightful pogroms and the industrialization-induced misery under Nicholas II set the perfect stage for Bloody Sunday in 1905, leading to reluctant, insufficient reforms and the eventual assassination of reformist Stolypin. By 1914, Russia was a boiling pot of discontent, just right for the dawn of the 20th century. There you have it, folks. That is nationalism in Eastern Europe and Russia nutshelled. Thanks for stopping by Nutshelled History. Hit those like and subscribe buttons for me, and comment what a mess this area was. See y'all next time.